So thanks, John, for taking this time. As you know, I have always been a big fan of your work.
Yes, you've been a
Uh,
great fan. Thank you so much for all your support, Raj. You've been awesome.
I haven't probably done enough, but every time you're like when I started writing and wanted to kind of get podcasts that were about writing, I went through a lot, but then finally I found yours, right about now,
Yeah.
and that stuck with me. I mean, everything you do there, I think, is just so interesting. It's not just about writing, but you bring out all those aspects.
Thank you.
So,
Of course, now I'm sunsetting that podcast, but I'm going to come back to it. I've been doing that podcast for 5 years right about now, and I've been trying to kind of do something a little different. But I mean, writing is my life. So every time I try to get out, they pull me back in. So, in fact, I'm going to do an episode next week about writing because it's just I can't stop.
Yeah, and you are on a roll right now, and I want to get to that, right? Because when you and I talked about Substack maybe more than a year ago, I was already on it. I was writing. I felt like I had that initial momentum, and then I was like getting people. And I know you were struggling to figure out, why Substack or how Substack, right? And this other platform, I know you talked about it on one of your podcasts a long time ago, or maybe it was one of our discussions. You were not able to crack it. You did,
Yeah.
and I know you and I kind of had a little bit of back and forth on IEM, just trying to figure out what do you write about on Substack, how's that whole audience. But now 4,000 plus subscribers, and that's amazing. What do you have? So I want to know more about how you got there.
I wish I had a secret formula.
But you did something, and
I did something, and I can explain what I did.
Yeah, and to me, from an outside perspective looking in, I thought I saw you doing more lives, right? And that was probably the beginning of March, April. I was looking at the timeline, and maybe you went live in March, April this year. But then you started also writing more stuff on your Substack. But more importantly, I think you found a niche, which you talk a lot about Gen X, right? So to me, from a person from outside looking in, having known what you struggled with a little bit, I see these three things, right?
Yeah.
You use the tool, you figured out a new niche because you didn't really talk about books or writing, or you try to keep it separate. And then, so is that kind of how it kind of worked?
I think there's maybe a few things that I'll mention. I think, just to give you the what happened. So I've been doing Substack for a while. And it was really very much about what I was doing my podcast on right about now, which was about writing, about, what makes good writing, it's things you need to know. And, the post would get, I don't know, 5 or 6 likes. You were usually one of the people who liked them. I always thank you, Raj, for that, and it just wasn't really resonating. And, so I kind of would forget about it, and then I would kind of come back to it. But then one day there was an article in the New York Times, and it was about Gen X, and it was called, It's the End of the World as They Know It. Which
I remember that.
Play off the REM song. And the whole premise of that article was that Gen X, especially creatives in the Gen X world, are sort of candlestick makers in the age of electricity, that we're sort of being passed by because we grew up, in a time when, magazines, for example, in my experience, because I'm a former magazine editor, came up and that was we knew all about that, but that world is gone, and now we feel very lost and we're struggling. And it was partly true, but also mostly wrong. And I felt widely biased against people my age, almost slightly ageist, although I found out that the person who wrote it is Gen X. So, so I wrote a response in a kind of honest way, just right away. I just wrote a response, published it, went away. And then I come back to my computer and I've got 100 suddenly likes and 50 comments. And then I come back 2 hours later and there's, eventually there was 1,500 people, responded. I don't know. It has something like, I don't know. I haven't looked at the analytics, but it has 10 or 15,000 views. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Wow. I hit on something. What is this? So then I did a follow-up sort of about, the comments that people wrote. I followed up on the I did a kind of like a recap of the sort of best of the comments, and that did really well. And then I was like, oh, I've kind of discovered something here. Like, let me try and write a few more things about Gen X. And I started doing that, and I started, again, every post since then has gotten at least 10 to 20 times more than I used to get. And the good thing was that I was interested in this topic. Like it was something that came naturally to me. It's not something I had thought a tremendous amount about, but I had, I consider I'm obviously a Gen Xer, and I love writing about nostalgia, and I love writing about things that are on my mind and in my experience right now. And it turned out that there were a lot of, I think I had found a lane where a lot of people felt like they wanted to read about this and talk about this and have a forum to think about this stuff that wasn't really being addressed in other media. And if Gen X was being talked about in other media, it was in sort of a disparaging way. So that was kind of the beginning of it. And then, yeah, the lives, honestly, the lives are a little bit of jury is out whether they really generate a lot of new subscribers. I love doing them because, me, I love podcasting. So to me, it's just an extension of, and I enjoy it in some ways more than podcasting because right now we've got 11 people joining us, right? Like I love having, I've never, usually when you do a podcast, you're just putting it into a vacuum. You have no idea. It's just you and the guest, and you have no idea whether people, what people's response is. It's not an immediate sort of thing. And I guess maybe it's the old, in college, I was an actor and I always liked to be on stage and kind of, the old days of actually having like immediate response. So I do love that. I love having people on here joining us and commenting, and it just adds an element of kind of spontaneity and a freshness that I don't have when I'm doing it, recording it. And so I like it. So I'm going to keep doing it, whether it drives views or not. I think the one thing you didn't mention that I did notice was very helpful was being pretty regular on the notes section of, and I think notes are sort of, some people don't love notes. I've noticed some of the purists at Substack find notes to be, the closest thing that Substack is, like Instagram and TikTok and stuff. But I try to keep it, again, I'm very focused on my notes. I don't just like put whatever's on my mind. Sometimes I'll put up something that's on my mind, but for the most part, I try to keep it very pertinent to Gen X news, to maybe a funny video I saw about Gen X, or maybe an observation or a meme I saw about Gen X, or a response to something that's happening in the news that's Gen X. So I have been pretty consistent, and I've also reposted other people that are doing that. So I'm kind of like in that community now. And I try to be pretty regular on notes. Like I try to do a note every day at least, and try to be active. I think you can't just expect to like be a success on a platform and not engage with it at all, and not engage with the society, with the users at all. So I think maybe a mistake some people make is like, well, I just put my thing up there and I only got 2, responses. And it's like, no, well, because you get in what you get out what you put in. So, you have to be an actor. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you get no response at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, and again, I think Vaughn is asking the question, what is this about? I'm talking to John today just mostly about how do you crack Substack. From somebody like me this is my third live one, and I am trying to figure out how to crack Substack with doing more lives, jumping right in. And I've seen John's trajectory on Substack from having no success and then, cracking it, which started with the Gen X post. And then suddenly you hit that gold mine of sorts. And then, so what, John, you're saying is you're sticking to that lane. So everything you do now is pertaining to that niche because that's your community. You figure out the community.
Substack, yeah, and you can, as I've noticed, some people have different sort of Substacks under their name. So they might have one that's like a business Substack and one that's more of like a community. So right now my Substack is pretty much just about Gen X. If I decide I want to expand, I could start another newsletter under my name. But right now, the sort of small talk brand is going to be about Gen X, and it's not just entirely because I want to just make, be popular and make money or whatever. It's also because I just enjoy writing about it. And I think if you don't feel, it's not coming natural to you and it's not something that you're kind of interested in, then it's going to come across anyway. So I think part of this is not trying to figure out like, what is it that people want to read about? It's like, what do I want to write about? And then hopefully people will come. I threw a million things up in the wall before this happened, and
Yeah.
I'm still figuring this out. I mean, we are in the nascent stages of small talk. I am trying to figure out how to expand this, how to scale this, maybe get more subscribers. I mean, I have, 4,500 subscribers, but only 32 are paid subscribers, right? So that's not, I'm certainly not going to retire on 32 paid subscribers. And so I've got to figure out, how do you convert? That's something I haven't really cracked yet. So I'll let you keep going. Sorry. Talking.
No.
I'm used to being the host.
No, I know. And that's great because, with Substack Live, I did two, I said already, and I am learning to listen and not to speak on top. So because editing is a pain for me. I just did one, and I posted one with my first, about a house sitter and how she travels the world. And most of the time editing that is like me interrupting with yeah.
Well, notice how I'm going like this, because I learned early on, and that when I was editing myself, that it's so annoying when I keep going, yep, So yes, I force myself to shut my mouth and just go.
Yeah, and my wife points that out, and that's the first thing she pointed out when she looked at it and said, why don't you shut up? Don't let them speak. So it's good you're speaking because I want to listen, and there's a lot to learn here. For like, I've been writing a lot. You've seen some of my posts. My problem is that, again, I watch Seinfeld. My show is about nothing, or there's no niche, right? So it's like a newsletter with no niche because I talk about everything. I have a global. I like to write. Again, I'm writing what I love to write. I like to talk about different stories, but the Marinade becomes that eclectic mix. That's why it's called Marinade, because it's got so many different flavors. And for me, that is a lane that's really hard to crack. And I'm okay with it. I'm not trying to make money off of this. That's the other piece of it, because I do have a day job. So there's that different perspective. But what I struggle to get is engagement. And I don't know if it's because I took a 6-month, 7-month break and now I'm like starting again, which may be it. Or maybe, those folks, I get more unsubscribes, which I'm okay with. But every time I post, and I also want to get to the frequency of posting you do, because you post every day almost, which I'm scared to do, because the more I post, I might get more unsubscribes, right? And for me, that's okay, because I want people, even if it's 5, they're the ones who engage, right? That's all that matters to me. It's like the engagement, because when you write something that's so passionate and then you have nothing of an engagement, that's more frustrating than actually, not having enough subscribers for me. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I took a few pages from my, career as a journalist, and continue being a journalist, in terms of what makes people engage. And, one of the things that I find is helpful, first of all, it did help that the first post I ever did, about Gen X, was based on a news story that was a bit topical, right? So like, a lot of people had read that article, because a lot of people read the New York Times. And so I was trading in on something that was happening, that was on people's mind. And I think, I always encourage, when I'm teaching writing, I always encourage my writers to try to be topical. Like, if you're going to write about a woman who's traveling the country, staying at houses by the way, I've written that article before. I know what you're talking about. The people who kind of like figure out how to house sit and then travel the world. That's a really interesting thing. Nomads. But, then is there a way to tie that into something that people are thinking about right now, and make it kind of like, not like an evergreen story, but something that's in the news, because people tend to like respond to the news of the day, right? And that's why these political posts, like, it's kind of almost an easy target, because everybody's annoyed or thinking about whatever Trump said today. And so if I see a lot of Substackers that are just, trading the politics of the day. Politics is sort of low hanging fruit. I mean, I don't enjoy writing about politics. But if I did, it would certainly be, I feel like you're already got an advantage, because every day there's something annoying to write about that people are thinking about, right? That's topical. But the other thing is, and again, I don't try to manipulate algorithms and stuff, but people do tend to respond when they have a passion about something, so if you can tap into like a topic that is on on people's mind that they have a strong opinion about, then that will help an engagement. So for example, I wrote recently about ageism, and ageism in my experience is a real thing. Like I have definitely experiencing ageism in my life. It's certainly on the career front, right? Like I'm putting resumes onto LinkedIn that will never get responded to, even though I'm overly qualified. And, I'm like, I can't prove it, but I'm like 99.9%
Yeah.
sure that it's because of my age. So, you know, that was interesting. Like that got a lot that resonated. I just wrote something about how advertisers are not, because I was responding to an article about this, about how advertisers have kind of like given up on Gen X and they only market to millennials and Gen Z. And again, that seems to be getting a bit of a response because people have an opinion about that.
Yeah.
And so one thing you might think about is like, what in the marinade how can I stir things up, to use a cooking metaphor? Where I'm not talking about like rage bait, because that is annoying, but it is a real thing. Rage bait's a real thing. I mean, there's a reason these guys like, Ben Shapiro and these guys are super popular, and Charlie
Yeah.
Kirk in the old days, because they're rage baiters. But beyond rage bait, is there a way to come up with topics that might get people to want to engage, that will have strong opinions about, either in one way or another? So I have to look at some of your stuff, but there might be a way to position it sometimes. And you can just experiment with that, just
Yeah.
experiment with a story where it's like, I'm pissed that this is happening, whatever.
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing right now, right? Because again, it's stuff that's happening around. Sometimes politics. I do write about politics,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's a camp. Everybody pegs you into one camp, and then that has its own. And I'm not worried about the topics per se, but I get the point of I'm probably not timing these things right. Right, my timing's probably off. It's probably not what people want to read about now. So that is an interesting point and tip that I should consider. But right now, yeah, it is experimenting. I am trying to, because like I said, I had that initial momentum, and then I was seeing that, and then I took a break, and then so it's almost like restarting. And I'm trying to restart with lives because I genuinely want to meet people
Mm-hmm.
on Substack. And I'm reaching out to my subscribers first, and then anybody that is already doing lives, and obviously you who have a lot of background doing this. I'm trying to get right. But it's also hard because people are not comfortable with lives yet. They don't know whether it is something that they want to do, right? So there's a comfort level that they have to cross to kind of get on live, not just video, but now you're live. So but I'm hoping with meeting more people on Substack, talking about their struggles of what they're trying to do, and I'm trying to build a community around collaborating and sharing, because then I can promote them, they can promote me. So I'm trying to build that organic audience of supporters in a way, not
Mm-hmm.
subscribers. Like that maybe comes automatically to all of us, but maybe together there's people, we're all struggling, I think, in many ways to find that gold mine that you did, where we can actually crack it.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like, right, everybody has their own perspective. Like to me, I found this gold mine, but I haven't really tapped it for gold yet.
Yeah.
I found a gold mine. I haven't really mined it yet.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you mentioned community, because that is a place where I'm going right now, where I'm trying to figure out how to nurture this community and what this community might, how to connect with this community. And one of the things I started doing was I did I do these Gen X Zoom calls like once every 2 weeks, where I got, I guess I sent out an email at some point and said, hey, if you're interested in just like doing and again, it's like free, just getting on a Zoom with a bunch of people your age for 45 minutes and just chatting, let me know and send me your email, and we'll figure it out. And so I had about 20 people respond. And we've done now two kind of group Gen X, I don't know, like venting sessions, right? And we do them on Sunday mornings. And, of the 20 people that signed up, like maybe 8 showed up, which is probably classic. People say they're going to do it and they don't do it. But it's been really interesting. You might want to experiment with that, because just getting, having like a direct contact with people, ideally I'd love to do it in person, but most of the people that read me are not in the Southern California area, or, maybe one is. So it's easier to do it nationally. And it's been a really nice mix of people from all over the country. The only thing we have in common is that we're all probably between the ages of 45 and 60. And I think that might be helpful for you to just, and then the good thing is then you could bring these topics up. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to connect to more people. And then everybody kind of throws out ideas. And so it's kind of like a support group in some ways without being like AA, you could be the leader. The first time I did it, I had all these like prompts ready to go, like, and it turned out that was not the direction. The way people just wanted to talk, and I just kind of like, the only rule is that people can't talk for like more than 5 minutes because otherwise they're going to just dominate the conversation.
That's the other piece of it. The lives that I did, some people just want to talk, and
you got to cut them off. But I think that's a really nice way. Sometimes, one of the things is I do want to tap the community to tell them to figure out, what is working and what am I missing? What are some of my blind spots? And so they've definitely helped me figure out some ideas. Certainly helped me. And again, I don't use them as a focus group, but it's really helped me with like topic ideas, because like the other day, a few weeks ago, somebody brought up this idea of being very lonely. And that was such a good topic that I hadn't thought about, because I feel that too. I feel like a kind of a loneliness, even though I have like a full house of kids and, beautiful, loving wife. I still feel kind of lonely. Like I work from home. I don't get out much. I'm kind of like a loner here and I feel like a lot of people my age feel exactly the same way. Maybe you feel this way too. And I'm a pretty extroverted person, but it's hard for me to like connect, daily with people. And just the way the world is now post-COVID, COVID ruined everything. And then post-COVID, we haven't really gotten back to like in person.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I connect with a lot of those things because I am Gen X.
Yeah.
I am an extrovert. And I am lonely.
So what is that? What the hell is going on? I think, and the thing is, it's like, that's a good thing. It's a good barometer for you. Like if you're feeling it, then it's probably the rest of your audience feels it. So like you should trust your instincts, right?
Yeah, because I think extroverts and maybe Gen X extroverts need, and my wife keeps telling me this, you need validation all the time. I'm like, maybe, but I call it engagement. So maybe I just need more people to just engage with me. I don't want them to validate.
Yeah, but tell you I love you. You're the best. That is kind of nice, and I think that's what I like about doing it this way rather than doing a podcast. Is that you have people now making comments and kind of saying good. Sometimes they'll do a heart, which is kind of nice. When people do the hearts like this, I'm going to do it right now. And it's just kind of, again, maybe maybe we're a glutton. Maybe it's from my old theater days when I loved being on stage and. I don't know. I don't think I'm a total egomaniac or anything, but I definitely like to have outside there. I know writers that would rather kill themselves than have to be in a room of people. Like they just are not interested.
Yeah. A lot of people who just want to do their own thing.
My friend is like this. I'm having him come on my podcast tomorrow and he hates it. He hates the attention. And meanwhile, this is a guy who gets invited onto the Bill Maher show and like he gets attention. But he doesn't like it. And meanwhile, I'm like, I want more attention.
Yeah. The two people I interviewed before this last week, both have not done Substack Live, and I literally pulled them. I don't even know them. Yeah. This was the first time you're meeting, and maybe that, I'm glad they trusted me to do that enough. But I think I struck a chord with them too, that they're also struggling. They want to do live, but they don't know how to, and so it was just a matter of just us trying to. And there are a lot of people like that on Substack. I want to talk about, so you did mention notes. I am trying notes. I just posted something that happened today it's a post. It should have been a post. It might be a post even in the future, but I posted it on notes just to see what the reaction would be. No reactions yet. It just happened this morning. But
I'll react, I promise.
Yes. but notes is, notes versus your posts. You're posting daily, so you've got that community now. So I think that's
safe. I'm not. Just to correct you, I only do one post a day. I do one like essay a day, and then I do one Substack Live a week. I'm sorry, I do one a week. Everything is once a week, so I do one essay a week and one Substack Live a week. I think that's enough. I actually think if I wrote every day, that would be too much. Only Heather, what's her name, does that, the Letters to America. There's some people who do it daily.
And I was wondering, whether, because Substack, people just get inundated with the emails.
I just think it's too much. That's the problem, is I feel bad every time I do a thing because I feel like, oh, here comes another email, which is why you're getting a lot of people unsubscribing because when you email them too much, they're just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, so I'm doing it once a week. So that's like consistent. I'm trying to keep that consistent once a week. I've got things scheduled out. Again, I got to figure out the topic, whether it resonates with them or not. So that's probably something I have to redesign. But the notes, I'm trying to post one or two a day. But again, I'm also trying to see long form post work versus I see a lot of pictures work pretty fast. People love to see
Yeah, I mean,
pictures.
some of it is like pictures or videos. I have to say one of my biggest, and I sometimes feel bad about this because I feel like, well, it's not my content, but it's just like I just literally I posted a video of a coyote, a coyote chasing a road runner, but it was like a
Yeah.
real coyote chasing
Oh,
a real road runner, and it was like I was like, haha, and it was like it has like 80,000 views, and I'm like, this
oh my
isn't
God.
even my content. I almost feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
But it's just like I'm just so I don't know, like but I also have done original notes, in terms of it's like my content that have done pretty well, but they have to be again, I don't know, they have to strike some sort of newsy relevant chord or respond to something that's happening right now rather than just, I mean, I don't know. I wish I knew the formula to that because I'll get notes in my feed or like, I'm like, oh, I wish I had written that. And it's just somebody's clever thought about, writing or and those are like, that's lightning in a bottle though. I just don't know how you can't know that that's going to happen. And it'll only probably happen once or twice in your life, that you're going to have so I think if you want to do consistent, maybe one day a fun picture or a referencing an article that you just read or a video, and then maybe your thoughts on something topical, and then reposting other people's stuff. Yeah.
I think
Restacking. Sorry.
Restacking, and then I'm commenting a lot, and I did all that before too. It's just that, like I said, I took a break, and then I'm trying to. I feel like Substack, the whole audience changed. I feel like, and then it's like the upside down world already.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are like, I hate it now. It's become TikTok. It's I guess I'm kind of late to it. Like I like it. I mean, I'd rather just look at Substack than Instagram or TikTok. I mean, I don't look at TikTok, but Instagram really gets me depressed. I don't seem to be on an algorithm of Substack that is just going to make me very, very depressed. I don't know somehow.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I spend more time on Substack too, and then Instagram. I used to get a lot of news feeds from Instagram like that, but then it's a rabbit hole, right? You just go, suddenly you're somewhere else.
It's an hour. It's an hour later, and you're like, I can't believe I haven't gotten off my couch. I hate it.
Yeah. So my wife actually left to India to visit family, and I had her lock my phone so I don't download Instagram. I can still access it through my website, so I can still post, but it's not the scrolling doesn't work on a laptop. So I think the more you do on your laptop, I think the less likely you're going down.
Yeah, it's true. I don't do this. It doesn't work on a laptop. Yeah, that's just a phone. I mean, there was a question that we brought up. One of my prompts in my Gen X meeting was, what do you miss the most about being alive in the 80s and the 90s? And I had to think about it, but then I was like, not having this, and I held on my phone because in some ways I love having the phone. Obviously, it's like a great tool in many ways, but it really, life before the phone was now in retrospect just beautiful.
Yeah,
I don't even remember that much about what it was like, but it was
And the best, I had a recent conversation with some Gen Zs and a millennial. So their dad was a millennial, and then Gen Z. I was a visitor in their house. I'm Gen Z, and I was almost being the referee right there.
Yeah.
Right. And because these didn't agree at all. Right. The Gen Z and the millennial was going. They
don't like each other. They hate each other.
And so I was the referee, and I was thinking, we have the best of both worlds. We know what the millennial thinks like, or we've been there. We know what a dial-up sounds like. We know that the beautiful sound of the modem connecting, like, that's just, therapeutic for us. And then we also know what's going on. So Gen X is definitely in the right spot to kind of make sense of this world and be writers in a way.
Yeah. I'm curious. There was an article. I'm kind of annoyed that they did this because it's like, I feel like that was my idea, but I think the New York Times just did a whole magazine on like, is Gen X the greatest generation? Like now they're starting to say, so now they've changed their tune, 3 months, maybe I changed them for them, but 3 months ago they were like, Gen X is dead. They're gone. And now they're like, we're the greatest generation. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably somewhere in the middle of the answer.
Yeah, maybe. So notes was supposed. So you're saying notes. we'll kind of see what happens, what sticks. But it's one of those things that's suddenly it'll work and just get some get something out of it.
Another thing that I found, which was kind of has been fun, is something's going on the chat, and then it's saying like I recently changed the redesign of my logo.
Yeah.
And I asked people like, what do you guys think? Like bringing people into your process and like giving them like a choice. I got a lot of response to that.
Yeah. I responded, I remember, and I think my choice is what you picked.
Oh, good. Thank you. The guy holding up the box.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was it. I think I did a C later. But actually, as a result of that, somebody said it and they said, these are both good, but why don't you do one? This was a friend of mine. It wasn't a person, but he said, why don't you do one where you have the guy from Say Anything, John Cusack, holding up the box. And I was like, that is a freaking brilliant idea. And so I changed the whole idea and I did that. And now that's the logo that I'm going.
Oh, so the guy's holding up
the holding
thing
up
in the middle.
Yeah.
So lives, again, I think there's value in this, but do once a week, I guess is what you're saying.
I think start at once a week, maybe do a live once a week, try to do one post a week, and then try to do notes every day. It's just a cadence of like realistic.
Yeah. Susanna, who joined, Susanna, I think you're in Uganda, right? And
cool.
Susanna, I'm asking Susanna to come on live with me. I'm putting her on the spot right now.
That would be amazing.
But we both love coffee, and so I'm trying to find things that we connect with, right? All these different
see, like people a coffee Substack might be like. Again, I don't know if you want to write it. It has to be something you want to do, right? So, but honestly, I feel like if you wrote a Substack about coffee and it was all, I don't know, again, what the angle is, but probably like a good idea. Like you would probably find like an audience there. So if you're willing to go a little niche, I think you probably will have a lot more chance of success. But I get the instinct to want to write about everything. Like I'm the same way. I don't want to be pigeonholed. But you might be able to Marinade might be one, and then you might have one that's just a coffee one, right? You could do more than one newsletter.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Those are good ideas. With live, do you always post it into YouTube? Because I did check your YouTube channel. I don't think you had one before. Maybe you did. I don't know. You had it on Spotify, but then now everything goes on YouTube and you're doing something there. And I wonder if this is from the discussion you had with somebody about how to push everything to YouTube, even if it's just audio.
You know who that somebody was? Freaking ChatGPT. I did ask ChatGPT, what am I doing wrong in terms of, not wrong, but like, what could I be doing better in terms of marketing it? And I kind of like gave it some input, and it said that everything should sort of point to one place because you're all over the place. Because the problem is I have a lot of different things. Like you mentioned at the top of the show, I have this podcast called Right About Now. I have this production company called Strikefire Production, whatever, nobody cares. But the point being that there's many different things that I do, and everything should point to one place. Like, so it's easy to find my content. So basically I just rebranded my YouTube into Small Talk, and I still have my Right About Now videos up there. By the way, I think it's automated, right? I think that, I'm pretty sure I set it up so that this will publish right to your YouTube channel if you want.
Yeah, when you're done with the live, it gives you an option. And so far, I've been saying no because I want to see how this goes. But you
want to see if I'm any good or not.
Not you, but me.
Just teasing you.
Yeah, you're great, but you've got all the experience in which I'm trying to gain. This one I might just post it directly onto YouTube, but So those are the things. So but are you getting people? Like everything is pointing to Substack, though. I noticed your Spotify points to Substack now.
Yeah.
Substack is your now main core.
Substack has now sort of become my main kind of like hub. Now, I have considered hiring or maybe like a marketing person, because this is definitely my weakness is that I'm not, and probably because I'm a Gen Xer, I don't totally know the best way to market things in a most obvious way. And so anything I say today now, I'm having a disclaimer that I'm not necessarily an expert in marketing. I took a digital marketing class once because I just wanted to know more. And so I probably know more than I admit, but I still always feel like, I had this woman on the other day, this woman, Amy Sudo, on my And she's
Yeah.
I think you might have watched that. She says she's made 7 figures as a writer, being a freelance writer, which I was very intrigued by because I don't know anybody making 7 figures being a freelance writer, especially these days. And, one of the things she says is that she spends 50% of her time on the marketing side of her content as opposed to the creative side. And of course, I much enjoy the creative side. So I was thinking, well, maybe if I had somebody that could help me a little bit on the marketing side, it wouldn't be so burdensome for me. Um,
Yeah.
but I think marketing is actually very undervalued. Unfortunately, I mean, I think for Gen Xers, this is a pain. Like, why does it have to be so about marketing? I don't like marketing. I just like doing the content. But
Yeah.
it's a part of it. Like she said, she tweaked something on the back end of Substack, and she saw like a 100x increase. She just changed the category that her Substack was coming in, and she said they saw a huge increase. So
Oh,
things
really?
like that, like tinkering with like back end stuff, like I just would never think about that,
Yeah. I mean, and you got a lot of those even from ChatGPT, you said, right? I mean,
Yeah,
some
yeah,
of
it
those
had some
tips and
ideas.
tricks.
Yeah,
And those are good. I mean, I want to talk about AI because, you can never get out.
yeah,
Everybody talks about AI now. But AI for writing, I use it, right? I use it, but there are specific reasons why I use it. I don't. My posts are not written by AI, but I do ideate with AI, right? I have an idea and I recorded my voice into it and I put my thoughts in. It's almost like a note taker for me
yeah,
in many ways, because then it kind of structures it out for you, almost kind of weeds out, gives you. Recently written a post about 3 people who I met, different walks of life, and struggling in America today, different small issues that they were facing with buying a car and things like that. I wanted to write it in Ira Glass's style because there were 3 acts, right?
yeah,
And so I used AI, give me a structure on how would Ira Glass write this for This American Life, and it turned out beautifully. It's still all my words,
right.
you
It's just
know, the
the
framework. Yeah.
framework. Yeah, that's very
So
helpful that way.
yeah, and I remember you had your first episode from this season of Right About Now was with Christopher Penn or somebody like that.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, from Substack, a Substacker who talks specifically about AI, and then you guys had an amazing and that is an episode everybody should watch because
good. Thank you.
that talks a lot about how do you use AI in the creative field. You said AI was a crappy writer then. That was entirely you. Where do you stand with respect to AI and writing?
I
And
wouldn't say it's a crappy writer. I think it's an obvious writer. I mean, and the thing is, I think you have to become very familiar with AI. I think as a writer, it behooves you to understand AI and not to just run away from it and not use it. And I know that's a very controversial take, and a lot of my friends are like, they've never even gone on ChatGPT, like that are writers. So I just think that you sort of, at your peril, don't understand how to use AI. And so I do use AI, and I almost hesitant to say that publicly because it makes it sound like I write my essays using AI. No, they're not written by AI, but they definitely, like, if I'm struggling with an outline, I might ask AI, like, how would you frame this argument? Or
yeah,
I will, say, like the other day I was just talking about, the marketing story that I wrote about how people don't market to Gen X anymore. And I was writing this story, and then I said, as I was writing it, I thought, oh, it'd be so good to give an example from the 80s of a marketer who tried to market to Gen X but failed miserably, you know. And that would have probably taken me like an hour to find. I just asked AI, like, do you have some examples that you could send me? And then it sent me like a bunch of examples that I kind of remembered, some I didn't. And then I went and did my own research on those things. But that's where I feel it's helpful. It's like kind of like I just think of it as like a smart intern. Like I would just
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
I would just give that to an intern to do if I was at a full-time job and I had an assistant or something. I'd be like, hey, can you research like 80 failed 80s marketing campaigns to Gen X? And like, maybe an hour later they come back with a bunch of ideas. So
yeah,
I feel like in that way, it's super helpful. It saves you time. It saves you on the mundane crap that you don't want to do so you can be creative.
yeah,
Um, and so I find it, I just think you're nuts not to use it at this point. But as far as your original question, is it a good writer? No, it's so obvious. Like I can tell in a second. And the thing is, if you work with AI, in a second its
yeah.
tendencies and habits. And I can read somebody's thing and know in a second whether AI wrote it. I don't know. I don't know if I have some sixth sense or I don't think so. I think anybody who uses AI knows how it works. By the way, Nefemi, another person who Nefemi, you guys should know each other. You're both awesome. And Nefemi was one of the first people to listen to Right About Now. I was just on his podcast
Okay.
yesterday, and
Yeah.
he's awesome. He's from Nigeria, lives in LA now. Anyway, so but I just like, for example, why is it always, it's not this, it's this, right? That's always an AI thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's always that. It's always three things. It's whatever. So it's an obvious writer. So if you wanted to just write the damn essay for you, go ahead. People will know it. It will
Yeah.
feel dull. And again, the difference between a human and an AI is that a human instills their own experience, their own um, take that AI can never replicate. And I was actually mentioning this with Nefemi yesterday, and this is my new take on AI, and I do want to write an essay on this. But it's like, how like now when you look at your Instagram feed, there's all these videos, all these AI slop videos of animal videos of like animals doing ridiculous, crazy things, and it's AI, even though it looks sort of realistic. Where it's like, like for example, I just watched a video of like a kangaroo in Australia, like going up to somebody's door during Halloween and kicking over a lantern, right? And it was, I was pretty sure it was AI, but there's something about that. It just takes all the fun. Those kinds of videos used to be so fun to watch, right? Because you'd be like, oh my God, I can't. Now that AI is making them, I don't care about those kind of videos anymore. And I feel like it's the same with writing. AI might be able to replicate a little bit of what a human does, but when it's not a human and it's not, it just suddenly takes the joy out of that, of reading that. And again, I don't know what that is. I think it's just because we're humans and we respond to other humans, and a machine cannot replicate that, whatever it is, that the je ne sais quoi.
Yeah. And
not a good writer.
Yeah.
Not a great
good writer. Yeah.
No, a decent writer, a competent writer.
Yeah, definitely. And again, the point is, you still have to use AI, but you need to know how to use AI. And it's almost like we writers have to give a disclaimer, like you said, that this is 50% AI, 90% AI, or 90% human. I don't think we need to worry about that as writers, because our stuff is original. We can't get away by having AI write it, but use AI for ideating, for research, for stuff that like an intern does. And that's exactly how I think of. I use Perplexity, and I know,
I do too.
Yeah, and I think it's improved quite a bit.
I don't use Perplexity. Do you use Perplexity to write? I use Perplexity mainly to research.
Yeah. Research. I mean, I don't use any tool to write it.
Yeah, I use it as Nefemi says here, and it's true. I use it a lot to proofread my stuff. Like I'll say, can you find any typos in this? Because I am bad at that. I do make a lot of typos. I don't know why, but I just do, and I always have.
Exactly. Since I've used AI to kind of, so it's like your editor. It's like your, again, editing is a strong word there. You don't want you don't want it to change.
It might make a suggestion, but I don't necessarily. I might override it.
But it's like a coach, right? And then you just don't. So it's really up to the human to kind of decide what to do with it. And a lot of people, I think, need to just, get on board with that mindset.
I mean, everybody's going to do what they want to do. I find it helpful. I'm not going to convince anybody, and some people will never use it, and that's fine, and I understand why. But again, I think it's important to make the distinction between, like, we're not saying that it should write your articles for you. I mean, that's crazy. And that would take all the fun out of it for me anyway. What would be the point of writing if I wasn't doing it myself? Well, I mean, anybody can have a machine do anything. So.
No, absolutely. So again, we've got 5, 6 minutes, and I want to respect your time, and you needed to. Couple of things. You said at the beginning you are sunsetting right about now, which
I don't know if I am. It makes me sad because I know that you're a fan, and that you found me that way, and a lot of other people have found me that way. And it's just that, honestly, that was a project that I never could figure out how to monetize in a realistic. I mean, it made some money. It led to a lot of amazing things. Meeting people like you, and Fami, who's on, and other people, and getting a book written. But I just, at a certain point, you're like, well, how long can you do something that doesn't make any money, right? Like, and again, not to be too mercenary about everything, but things do have to. I do have to support myself, and so I enjoy it. I just couldn't, and I think there might be something there might be a little bit more opportunity to scale this Gen X idea in terms of more of a lucrative thing. But anyway, I'm still replaying some of my Right About Nows. I did it for 6 years. I'm sure there's a lot of episodes that you missed. And I try to find some of the gems from there. And then, I was just thinking today, I was just listening to an author talk about his book, and I was like, I got to have this guy on my show. I can't do it. Yeah, I gotta call him.
And so the distinction between Right About Now and Small Talk, just for those who don't know that, right, is the Right About Now was really about authors and books and writing as part of authoring.
Exactly. Right About Now is, and again, I always say it's not really about writing, because I think that was one of the things that made it limited in terms, and sometimes I wonder if I named it the right thing, because I think a lot of people would say, oh, Right About Now, that's a thing about writing. I'm not a writer. I'm not interested. But really what it was a conversation with interesting thought leaders about their books and then the ideas in their books. We did talk about the process of writing, but it was also a lot of just about whatever the book was about, or whatever, and it was a lot about creativity. Anyway, we covered a lot of things. I wonder sometimes whether the name Right About Now. Small Talk is a lot more general. It could be about anything. But Right About Now, I think it might have pigeonholed me a bit.
Yeah, Small Talk works
Marinade's
perfectly.
good too. Marinade's good. It's like,
yeah, exactly, and which is my problem. I mean, I do, but the Marinade Mixr is about all these conversations. I want to. So the brand. So yeah, I wish you success on Small Talk, and I'm going to be there, just like many of those folks who join. I'm sure all your fans. I'm going to be there wherever you are.
You're good.
Always,
you've always been so supportive. I try to support you too, and I really appreciate it. It's a journey. I'm glad that it's also in your lane of interest. It's not like I'm writing about something that you'd be like, why am I right? Why I don't want to read about that. Yeah, so that's good.
Yeah,
and I'll continue doing Right About Now, and who knows? I'm not giving up on that. I update that feed every day and every week anyway, because I just want to make sure that it doesn't just die.
Yeah, but you also want to focus on exactly where I think, again, mining for that gold is your top priority.
You got to make money. I think that the idea, one of the things Amy Sudo said to me is this idea of the starving artist. I mean, I don't know very many people who believe that anymore, but that is just such bull crap now. We've got to, there's no reason that artists shouldn't think about money and making money and keeping themselves, especially if you have a family.
Yeah.
So yeah, as long as you're not selling your soul, I think you're fine.
Yeah. On that note, thanks again, John. I appreciate it. And thanks everybody who joined.
It was a pleasure. I thought you did very well. I think you're really good at this. And the key to good interviewing is being a good listener, and you are a good listener, and you just keep listening.
Thank you. This is validation. Exactly what my wife said I need.
Right. Yeah. My wife she said, I wish you could listen to me like you do on podcasts. You're such a good listener, but like to me, you barely never listen to anything I say.
Yeah. I don't listen to my wife at all. Somehow that doesn't work. Maybe, as she says, maybe I need to come on your show, and I wrote that note today about me going to the doctor, and that was a note, the long form note. And then she's in India, right? So she sent me a text saying, I think I learned more about you from your writing. Yeah, but what did you learn from that? Like, I just went to the doctors. You knew I was going to the doctors.
Yeah. Who knows? These women, man, they see something. They just see something.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Great talking to you.
Yeah. Have a nice week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for joining. Great. How did we?
Do I end it? I end it, right?